miles to the world, we're hitting first base. Marty Lurie with friends, home run. You know the ways and the trends, the stories all with the match of the block. It's Marty and friends. Marty and friends.
All right. Thank you, Ruby. And way to get started. Boy, I'll tell you something. It's great to be with everybody today. The road trip not off to a great start for the Giants. A lot of things happening to this ball club. They lose today 5-2. It looked like Verlander was going to get his elusive first win as a Giant. Not meant to be, as the bullpen kicked it in the seventh inning. But joining all of us today, we're all on together. And of course, Larry Krueger, Eric, Glenn Kuiper, and me. So it's great to see everybody. And I'll just let you guys, we all saw it. And I'm sure everyone who's on the chat, please chat up and we'll read some of these things. But 5-2, come on, the White Sox beat them 5-2 and take the series 2 of 3. And it's on to Arizona for the Giants. So, Larry, we'll start with you. Your thoughts. Here we go.
Well, my thoughts are that, you got to be able to score more runs than they scored. I mean, they scored nothing yesterday. They scored a total of 5 runs in 3 games against a really beleaguered Chi Sox pitching staff. And I watched Friday night pregame, and when they threw it to the announcers, they're like, "Hey, man," Dave's like, "It's a great night to hit." I mean, it's like awesome, except we didn't get to see any of that. So I don't know. Really, they're not. I mean, Koss is having some pretty good at bats, but they're not getting a lot offensively from the middle of the diamond, right? Adames, no. The catcher, no. Jung Hoo's ice cold. Outside of Koss giving them some ABs, and obviously Koss is playing third today. But I like what I've seen from Koss, which is nice. I liked what I saw at the end there from Seymour. 95 and power arm. It looks like he's got 2 or 3 pitches, and he looks good. But I mean, they got to find some offense. I mean, the offense, and then what's happening is that the lack of offense is making the rest of the club tighter, I think, because now Wisely has lost 2 games for them, being picked off. I mean, getting picked off third, that was a nightmarish situation in yesterday's game. I mean, that just cannot happen ever, ever, ever. And it happened to him the day before at first base. So, and it was razor thin margin. I mean, he took one false step and the Chi Sox, burned him on it. So great play by them. I love that bat that they have. I don't know much about him. Teal, is that his name? That double that he had. The big. Yeah, I mean, what a fantastic bat. Young hitter that kid is. I mean, that was a fantastic line drive. One bounce to the wall. So. Chi Sox are young. If you don't score runs, anybody can, the margins are slim and anything can happen, and that's what happened.
My turn?
Yeah, go ahead.
Your turn.
Oh, man, I don't know. It's been frustrating. Listen, I think the big picture is that, yeah, it goes back to the offense. It's befuddling to me how they just get in these situations and they just don't produce. There's numbers to back it up. We can talk about those, but the thing that sort of jumped out at me now a little bit, guys, is you can tell that I think the players are getting a little tight, and then you try to do too much. And I know that's a often used phrase in baseball. Baseball is a game where you can't try harder. What do you do if you're a batter and you try harder? You swing harder. Well, that's the worst thing you can do. What if you do if a pitcher and you try harder? You try to throw harder. It doesn't work. And I think you're starting to see guys, they're trying to do too much. And if you think about situations, and it's all because they're not scoring runs. Wisely gets picked off of third, which is an awful play. I know what he's thinking. He's thinking, I'm going on contact. right? So when contact's made by the hitter, I'm going to try to score. And you do that because you're not scoring. So Bob Melvin says, I got to start, I got to send the runner on contact to try to get a run here. So Wisely's thinking that way. So now he cheats out a little bit too much, thinking Devers is going to make contact. Boom, he gets picked. So it's all things like that that guys start to just, I got to do a little bit more. I got to do a little bit more, and that's the worst thing you can think of as a baseball player. And then it manifests itself, and it's just, I mean, this has gone on now, guys. I mean, I looked up the numbers. Last 15 games, they're hitting 161 with runners in scoring position. They know that, right? So then you start to, I saw Devers today. Think about this, guys. We've seen Devers for 7 years with the Red Sox. He likes the ball out of way and he drives it to left center, right? And now in this series, they pitched him away because he's trying to hit the ball out of the ballpark, trying to pull everything. He was pulling off everything. So think about that. Even Rafael Devers, a 3-time All-Star, he's caught up in the, I got to do a little bit more. I got to do a little bit more. Trying to do too much. What does it look like? He goes 1 for 11 with 8 strikeouts in the series. So even the best veteran hitters, when you start to try to do too much, it backfires. And what's happening, guys, it's backfiring on the whole team offensively. They have opportunities today. Listen, bases loaded in the 5th, bases loaded in they had opportunities. But all of a sudden, you just, it turns into a little bit of a mindset. And, as fans, it's a here we go again thing. But there's so many different things you can look at. But to me, it's just simply, if they don't start scoring more runs, they're not going to be a postseason team. They can't keep going like they're going. And it's got to get going soon. I know there's time left. It's not that panic situation, but we keep seeing the same thing over and over. I mean, we've seen this now, guys, for the last, 5 series where they've struggled with runners on base, really starting at Dodger Stadium. That's a long time. I mean, and so it starts to just roll. It rolls over to the next series. They struggle again. And then the next series, they struggle again. And then it's in their head. And then you try to do too much. Matt Williams is waving guys in when he shouldn't be because he's just trying to get something going. So it just turns into this ball that just starts rolling and getting bigger and bigger. So I think they really, really need a good offensive series in Arizona. Good ballpark to hit in. Marty's going to be there. He's a good luck charm. But I think this is an important 4-game series for the offense. They have to figure this thing out.
And yeah, it's to your point, Glenn, in today's game, and I think of yesterday, they drew a lot of walks. They drew 8 walks today.
Yeah.
I mean, they're showing some patience, but then when they get on, all of a sudden, it's like a deer in the headlight almost. And it's like, man, it's so frustrating. And maybe this is why Melvin is having some issues with what to do with the bullpen, because when you're holding on by the narrowest of margins, here you're going to the bullpen, with a 2-1 lead. You're thinking, okay, now we're going to see quote unquote the A team coming in from the bullpen. You're going to see Rodriguez, you're going to see Rogers, and Doval. I was a little surprised. Are you guys surprised that Bob Melvin went to Eric Miller? He pitched yesterday. I understand there were some lefties coming off or coming up, the do-ups, but Taylor's been doing good. And I know Taylor, he's pitched a couple of days in a row, but Rodriguez, he's kind of been your guy. He's been your prototypical, your firefighter, right? He's the guy that comes in and puts out the fire, so to speak, because you got to get that win. You got to salvage it, knowing that your team is just not putting runs on the board. I was a little surprised that Melvin did that. I mean, I don't know if you guys, are you guys seeing something a little bit different than what I am as far as the bullpen management is coming from the manager?
Well,
I mean, I like Miller. I mean, I don't have a problem with Miller.
No, a lot of that can be explained before the game. Everyone says who's available, who's not available. Yeah. I think in the perfect world, he'd love to have Rodriguez come in every game.
Right.
He may not have been available today, but if he was available, he should have been in there. This game was an important game to win. I think they're at a crossroads. I really do. This has been going on for a couple of months now. The fact and the strength of this team has been the pitching. And all of a sudden, the pitching is now questioned. Verlander was good today. He wasn't great, but he was acceptable, thank God. Balls were hit off him very hard today that stayed in the ballpark. He could have been down 4-1 in the second inning, but he was acceptable today. And for a fourth or fifth starter, it's fine. But the bullpen has been the strength to me the whole year. And Miller has been iffy. He'll put guys on, he'll walk people, which is a problem. Walker is really a problem. You could just see it in his face. And plus a balk today, his cleat caught on the mound and that forced a run in, and he gave up another hit. And the other thing is, I'll get off the pitching here for a second, because I think the pitching is something to be concerned about, and don't overlook it. The pitching is not as tight as it has been, and they need it. But it's their approach at the plate. I mean, you look at this little Mydroth hit. You look at guys go the other way. And Glenn's talking about hitting with runners in scoring position. 2 for 11 today. They left 11 on base. They had 8 walks, as Eric says. You got to go the other way. You can't be swinging from your heels all the time. And it really comes down to Lee, who's now hitting 243. I thought he was going to lead the league in hitting. I said this the first week. I said, Lee's going to lead the league, and he's going to hit 360. And I think that was the last hit he got. He's hitting 243. Adames, 0 for 2 today. He's lucky he got a walk with the bases loaded to drive in a run today. Hitting 209. Devers, is he doing too much, Glenn? I don't know. He's 10 for 46. That's a lot of strikeouts. He's not catching up to the ball at all. Is he out of shape? Is something going on with him? Yastrzemski, 244. Flores, 244. The last 3 guys in the order, the Koss, Wisely, Bailey, I don't even think about, because if they do anything other than making out, we're very lucky. So basically, this is a team in the crossroads right now. The guys that I'm talking about, Devers, Lee, Adames, Ramos, they've got to hit. And they've got to hit in a way that you can say, hey, Devers has carried the team now for a week. They need a carrier. They need someone to carry this offense, because it's putting the pressure on the pitching, which naturally is going to be corrected. It happens every year. The pitching is sort of getting corrected now. Let's see what Birdsong does down in Arizona and what Roop does in Arizona. This is important. So my point today is, if you look at the game, the way it was played, as you guys mentioned, bases loaded a couple of times, double play by Ramos. What can you say? Yastrzemski and Adames strike out with 2 on. You got Lee and Koss popping up with bases loaded. So the pitching is the key for me. It better straighten out. This hitting, at some point, you've got to be a smart hitter and go the other way. So that's my take on what I see today.
Complementary, in football, they talk about complementary football. There's complementary baseball. I mean, and complementary, and the Giants aren't playing it. Their pitching's fine. It's criminal that we're sitting here complaining about pitching that's been awesome for the most part. And really, one of the great surprises of the year is how well the Giants have pitched. Here's the story. Yesterday, they were shut out for the 8th time this year. Worse than that, the Giants have lost 7 times this year, 1-0. 7 times, 1-0. So they've pitched. They didn't touch Adrian Hauser. Who? Adrian Hauser? Adrian Hauser looked awesome yesterday. He had 88 pitches through 7. He breezed. He just filled up the strike zone because they're so passive. 62 strikes and 88 pitches, and they just did not touch him. So they've got, I don't like to point fingers at anybody coaching-wise, because it's players. This is pro sports. But man, Pat Burrell at some point has to be feeling some pressure because I mean, you have Dave Fleming was asked the question: are the Giants overachieving or are they underachieving? And he's like, well, I think most people would say that they're overachieving, but the Giants think they're underachieving. And that was coming into this series. So how do they think they're feeling now as they just lost 2 out of 3 to a White Sox team that's really been getting thumped all year, and they didn't hit at all? So let's talk about what they can do immediately, because I think they need to do things immediately. How about this for an idea? Jung-Hoo Lee's at bat today where he like, I mean, I don't know. It was one of the worst at bats I think I've ever seen. He did the biggest uppercut and popped it up, went nowhere. He is in a deep funk. Just lie to us about some finger issue, and let's see Matos for 10 days. At least then you have maybe a guy who's probably swinging pretty well in the minors up in the lineup, and you're taking a guy who's right now, he's your guy. You're paying him $19 million a year for the next forever, basically. He better be your guy, but he ain't your guy right now, and he's putting together horrible at-bats. So come up with something. The other guy that I would want to sit down if I could is Adames. I mean, Adames is just, what's he? I mean, he's just in a deep funk. If you could get Lee and Adames bats going, because those are the guys you're paying to hit, and at times Lee looked really good. If they can get that, you're not doing anything if you can't get those guys going. But you got to figure out some way, because you're not going to be able to make trades, and those are more permanent type things. You got to think of short-term ways you can get a couple hotter bats into the lineup by creating injuries or something, because they got to look at some new faces. Would we all agree there?
Well,
no, I don't. I don't agree.
No, you don't want to see new faces.
No.
Where can you get
Who
him?
you going to put at shortstop?
Well, no, I don't think there is a new face at shortstop, which is why I think you got to stick with Adames. But I mean, I would definitely like to see a new face. If you have an outfielder that's swinging the bat well in AAA, the way you're swinging it right now, I think it would be almost malpractice.
We've seen he's swinging the bat well in AAA before. We've seen that before. Okay, I just
So you're done with Ramos? I'm not. I think Ramos has got a future, Glenn. I think he's got. I think
I never.
No, but I mean, if you don't want, but if he's going good, don't you want to give him a promotion?
I don't think you should call a guy up from AAA and say you need to be the savior. That's not fair to the kid. I never said I was giving up. I think Ramos will probably be your right fielder next year, and I'm totally okay with that. But you're not going to create an injury. And if
he's going good, is he not?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well,
but he needs to play.
I think they need a new approach.
You're not going to create an injury. First of all, that's not going to happen. And if those two guys, the two guys you're talking about, if they don't hit, or if they don't get things turned around a little bit, then they're not going to make the postseason.
Right.
Okay. So I would rather say, you got to grind through this, guys. I know it's hard to watch. I know it's hard to watch. I'm with you guys on that, but I don't think bringing somebody up or, let's sit Adames for a while. And I don't think that's the right thing to do. And I don't think that's the way it works at the big league level. I think you got to stay with these guys and hope that they get out of it. And they may not. But if they may not, the team is, they're not going to play in the postseason if they don't. I don't disagree with what I would like to see the Giants do, and Larry. And so I'm going to half agree with you. I think they need another outfielder. I think they need a right-handed hitting outfielder. My point to you though is I don't think saying, Lee, we're going to put you on the injured list. We're going to make something up, or you're going to sit for 2 weeks and we're going to get Matos up here and he's going to play center field because we need somebody to save us. I don't think that is the right way to go, but I'd like to see another outfielder that can play right field or play center field to help those two guys out. Now, if you want to do that with Matos, okay. But I just don't think bringing him up and saying, you know what, we got a guy in center field struggling. We're struggling. We're at a crossroads. We're in big trouble here. Save us. Get out there. You're going to play center field for 2 weeks. That's not the way I would go about it. That's just my opinion. Who knows?
And can I ask you a question? Because I'm trying to figure something out with Jung Hoo Lee. I thought maybe he has an injury because I know he had a tight back. I know he had a back issue in spring training, but he's running all over the place out in the outfield. His defense, it hasn't affected his defense because his defense, he's out there getting it. And I love watching him.
He saved a run today. I mean,
he did.
Yeah.
But the problem is, what is going on with his bat? April seemed like everything was clicking like it should be. They were hitting with runners in scoring position. They were doing some situational baseball. Defense was awesome. Of course, the pitching was there. But I'm trying to figure out what is going on with Adames and Lee and their bat. I mean, you watch the game and you're just like, I don't understand. Is it mechanical? Is it maybe between their heads? I don't know, but it's tough to watch, especially when you had all this promise in these two guys, specifically Lee and Adames. Spent a lot of money on both of these guys, and look, I don't want to bring money into it, but you did. I mean, there's a truth to that, and I want to see those guys that go out there and look. And I would take a 230, 240 hitter, right? Because you'll score more runs when, at least if you're league average to a certain extent. That's all I'm asking for at this particular time with how well that the Giants have been pitching. So, I mean, you guys see something in about Adames and Lee that can be corrected, or is it something is this just who they are?
I do. You got to have a different approach at the plate. You've got to, with 2 strikes, you got to shorten up. With runners in scoring position, you got to shorten up. You got to hit the ball up the middle. You've got to hit the ball the other way. If you need a fly ball, then you try to hit a fly ball. I don't think their situational hitting is good at all, and I think it's killing them. And so many strikeouts with runners in scoring position. Hit the ball the other way. Look at this little Mydroth today. You know, it made me realize they need a spark plug. They need a player who can get dirty. And look at Wisely. I mean, what Mydroth did to Wisely today was one of the great. I've never seen that before.
On this tag,
he stopped the slide going into second base, and Wisely fell back on his ass.
Yeah. Well, Wisely, he was late getting there. I think that caused the whole problem for why I thought he was late getting to the bag. That's what it looked like to me.
Yeah, we have one question here, a $2 question. What does Brett Dumley do well? It isn't tagging. Well, unfortunately, his major league career is not going well. He's not doing much at the plate, and maybe he could pinch run, but he gets picked off all the time. This has not been a good stretch for Wisely. But my point is this, I'll throw it to you. There's not much you can do other than take these guys and try to work on their approach and make them do things differently in the game. And I think if they're going to make a trade, I've said this all along, and Glenn just said it, for a right-handed outfielder, whether it's Matos, if you want to get involved with him again, fine. They need an outfielder, a right-handed hitting outfielder, to come in for Lee, perhaps, or for Yastrzemski to be able to play the outfield. And I want a spark plug kind of guy. I want someone who can go out and steal a bag, can get on base, can make something happen and get dirty. I want a guy like that. Schmidt is like that a little bit, but he's still a work in progress. So what can you do now? Not much, other than trying to get them to hit the other way and change their at bats with runners in scoring position. That's my
well,
thought.
And your pitching's going to wear out. I mean, you don't just these guys can pitch. It's a much different deal pitching in 1-run games as opposed to pitching in with a 4-run lead, and their pitchers never are pitching with a 4-run lead, so everything's nip and tuck, and so their pitchers are going to tire out. The problem is that it's been going like this for a while. This is not a recent thing. This is the Giants have scored an NL worst 2.9 runs per game with a 640 OPS since May the 7th. So we're close to July the 7th. So it's we're coming up on 2 months, almost 2 months since they've been scoring under 3 runs a game. So I mean, the rest of the stuff is, we can talk about, but you gotta figure out where you're going to get some more offense somehow, some way. Whether you show confidence, don't show confidence, whether you yank somebody's sheets and trade them away, whether you make some decisions, you probably can't keep running the same guys out there
Well, there's no
and
one else
expect
to put
different
out.
things.
Well, there's nobody else out. The bench is thin. There
Yep.
really is no bench. You can't. Johnson doesn't do much. There's nothing. Koss has been great in a limited role here, but he is a limited player. There's not much on the bench to do anything, and I think the ball is in Buster's court again. That if they don't straighten out those at bats and do things differently with runners in scoring position, they're never going to get out of it. And he may have to make another deal. I mean, he sees this. What else can you do? People are all over Melvin on our comments here.
Yes.
Let's deal with that. Is anything can Melvin do anything here differently? What can he do that be different that can affect the game? Larry, Glenn, anybody?
Yeah. You guys know me well enough, and I'm not a big blaming on the manager coaches kind of guy. And, I'll say it, I said it, Marty, to you this morning. If you have to tell a major leaguer not to get picked off third with less than 2 outs in a 1-run game, if you have to tell him that, or if you don't tell him that, and he doesn't already know that at the major league level, who is that on? That's on the player. Okay. You should not have to tell big league player that, because I know people said, well, are the coaches talking to him? I mean, really? You got to tell him that? He's in the major leagues. We all played Little League and you knew that, right? So, listen, I've talked to Pat Burrell. I'm not going to tell you what he says. Does he get frustrated? Yeah. Does he get frustrated with all of his hitters at certain times? Yeah. Maybe his message is there. Maybe sometimes major leaguers can be a little bit stubborn and they don't like to change, right? That's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
A major league hitter being stubborn and set in his ways, that's a thing.
Right.
I remember Brandon Belt. Yeah, they tried to adjust his swing. Yeah.
Almost all of them are stubborn. I mean, I see guys, I'd like to say, hey, move up in the box this much, a little closer to home plate or a little closer to the pitcher, because you're not even fouling off pitches on the outer half. But you see guys sit in the same spot for 162 games in the batter's box. And as far as the manager goes, listen, you're going to always criticize the manager for different things. Today, where was Rodriguez? I honestly think he was saving Rodriguez for the 8th inning because he wanted to go Rodriguez in the 8th, Duvall in the 9th, because Rogers had pitched Friday and Saturday and he wasn't going to use him today. That's what I think. That's why Rodriguez, but he could have brought Rodriguez in the middle of that inning in the 7th inning, but I think he wanted to save him for the 8th.
That was the game.
That's an area where he could have certainly did get Rodriguez in there, get out of the inning, and then the 8th inning is clean for whoever you want to put in there.
That was the game.
I think there's an argument there. Walker has really struggled for quite a while now, and it may be time to get him out of these really tight spots, these tight points in the game. Because there's got to be a little confidence question there with him. So I could see that, them starting to back off Walker a little bit. But, listen, I think, the bullpen decisions are always something that managers are going to be questioned about. I think generally Bob does a pretty good job. But I think today, I would have probably, when things started to get a little weird in that 7th inning, even though he didn't want to Rodriguez, maybe it was time to maybe bring him in there to face the right-handed hitter, which was why Walker was in there. And then worry about the 8th inning when you get through the 7th. Anyways, that's just my feeling on kind of that whole bullpen decisions that were made today. But listen, these coaches are on these guys, trust me. But sometimes, more often than not, big league hitters are really, really, really stubborn, and they keep doing the same thing. It's hard to understand, but that is the thing, folks. Trust me.
I will blame the manager when the manager needs to be blamed, but I'm not. To me, it comes down to two things: does the manager set a good tone and a winning tone? Does he make good lineup decisions? But then, to me, the bigger issue is always more about how does he manage and handle his bullpen? Because that's where the manager has so much discretionary power. Now, here's the thing about this. The Giants have played 35 one-run games, and when you play one-run game after one-run game after one-run game, there's going to be a lot of times you're going to be walking out of the ballpark saying, "Well, what if Melvin did this?" Doesn't mean that Melvin's not a good manager. It just means that the margin for error in these games is so small that it has you questioning the smallest of decisions because the game hinges on it.
That's a great point, Larry.
But one stat I have to throw out here: the Giants' bullpen ERA is the best in all of baseball and has been much of the year. And he's done it with guys that are not just awesome guys. They've found a way to rebuild Doval a little bit. They found a way to mix in Rodgers. And so I just think that Bob handles the pen well. I think you're seeing the results. I think a lot of the discontent is just passionate fans. We all know I'm one of them. Giants fans are very passionate, and they're walking out of the stadium and they're frustrated, and you just lost a one-run game, and it's real easy. It's the low-hanging fruit. But I think Bob has done a really good job. And I went to spring training. Glenn, I had a chance to talk to you and Marty down there. I wanted to get a feel for the tone in the room and the tone that he's setting, and it was a very different tone than in the past, but a very professional tone. I think Bob is an accomplished manager who's above reproach at this point. I'm not saying that he's above criticism, but I'm just saying that I don't think he is the reason for their issues. I think it really is as simple as they just need a couple more hot bats, either from the guys they have or from the outside world. And if they do, I think they're going to score a few more runs, they're going to win a few more games, and everybody's going to be feeling really, really good about Bob Melvin. So and Matt Williams, come on, man. We've been complaining about Sonny Jackson and every other third base, Wendell Kim. I mean, any Giants fan knows that the third base coach is a thankless job, and you're going to wear the goat horns if you're aggressive, and Matt's aggressive. So I got no problem with Matt. I got no problem with the staff or with Melvin. I don't think their issues are staff related. I really don't.
And Larry, let me make a point, and I think your point was terrific. When you play as many close games, you're asking your manager to be perfect with every bullpen decision he makes, and that's impossible. So I think, that's a good point. And, I was reading today, Andrew Baggerly made a really good point. He was talking about, remember last week, it was against the Marlins, I believe, and Matt Williams sent Devers to try to tie the game, right? And he was out by a lot. I think it was in the 5th inning, right? So He sent him on a double, tried to get him to score. He's thrown out the plate by a lot. And the game stayed 3-2. And, the optics of it was like, oh, that was a bad send. And it was. He was out by a lot. But Bags made a great point. He said, listen, that again goes into that whole, like, guys trying to do too much because the offense isn't scoring enough. And his point is he tried to tie the score and it didn't work. But the next 4 innings of the game, the rest of the game, inning 6, 7, 8, 9, you know how many hits the Giants got? 0.
Right.
So do you see my point is like, that's the problem when you force it a little bit when you're not scoring runs, and he's trying to tie the game at 3, just to do anything. As it turns out, you kind of understand why he did it, even though it probably wasn't the right decision, but you understand why he did it, knowing the offense is struggling. And then as that game goes on, they don't even get another hit, which means they don't get any other chances to score a run. So again, it all goes back to, we're all talking about the same thing. It all goes back to not scoring enough runs, makes the manager's job tough. It puts a lot of pressure on the bullpen. It makes it difficult on the starters. And I agree with Larry. It's been going on now long enough where if it doesn't change soon, it's going to cost them. I don't think there's any question.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, Marty, we got a few super chats that come in here. Let's take a look at some. Rob Iman donates $6. Thanks, Rob. Says Meckler may be on his way up to Arizona with Schmidt possibly going on the IL. I think Walker punched his ticket to Sacramento today.
Nah,
Walker? They're not sending Walker to Sacramento.
Well,
there's
nobody to bring.
Meckler?
Well, second, they've been playing Meckler at second base.
They've been playing Meckler at second. Yeah.
They don't need a second baseman because
No.
Schmidt's going to come back, and then Schmidt's going to play third with Koss at second. Chapman comes back. Schmidt's going to play, and Koss is your backup. Schmidt's going to play second base. They don't need a second baseman.
So
there you go.
It's about Meckler. The Mecklemator, we call him. Remember
the Mecklemator?
How's he swinging it down there? Is Meckler swinging it?
Question. He uses the whole field, and he does have a little bit of speed. He does fit what I'm asking. If he can do it, it'd be terrific. I don't know if he can do it or not, but I want that guy who can use the whole field, get the uniform dirty, and be that kind of ball player. And that's hopefully, if Meckler is here, they'll find a place to put him in.
Yeah. And then you got Claudaddy Vending 896 donates $10. Says last time we saw Matos in Miami, the ball was coming off the bat quite well. Last time we gave Adames a couple of days off, he briefly came back to life in the Colorado series. All right. Thank you for the $10. Rob also donated another $6. It may be time to take a page out of Kapler's playbook and bring back platoons until the hitting is back on track.
Who do you want to play? Where do you want to?
Yeah, I know, right? Now there's not.
They don't
there ain't
have
much
players. Look, coming out of spring training, we all thought, well, 81 wins, 82 wins. Nobody said 90, 93 wins, or well, this is a locked playoff team. Nobody said that. We said maybe 81, right, Larry? 79, 80, 82. We were talking about, somewhere in that range. So you have to realize that's what they have as a team. Those are the players they have. And they needed to have big, big seasons to make this thing different. And they started off having big seasons. Ramos went nuts. Ramos was leading the major leagues in runs batted in. Lee was hitting 360. They got off to a great start. Then they now have settled down to kind of who they are. And Adames, if this is it, this is going to be a rough 7 years if this is who Adames is at short. I mean, defensively, he's throwing the ball well. He made an error yesterday. I thought he misplayed the ball. But Devers, I don't know, guys. Glenn, you've seen Devers over the years with the Red Sox many times, and this is my first experience with Devers, and I must say I'm a little underwhelmed. I have to tell you that.
Really? So you're going to make that judgment on 2 weeks?
I'm just saying, in the 2 weeks, he may hit 400. I know.
Marty, you said 15 minutes ago you questioned whether he was out of shape.
Yeah.
Well, he was leading the American League in RBIs 2 weeks ago, and he was the same shape.
Well, he's playing in that little bandbox, too.
He's not a center fielder.
Now he's in
this is one of the best. Listen,
he's a hitter.
He's one of the best offensive players out there.
You've seen him at his best.
I think he's terrific. He's probably pressing a little bit right now, but I'm not going to judge the guy on 2 weeks. I'm really not.
I'm not saying he stinks
or
he's through. I'm not saying he stinks or I'm just saying for the 2 weeks I've seen him, I'm a little bit underwhelmed. That's all.
Well,
maybe he'll turn around and hit 400 the rest of the year.
It takes me longer to get overwhelmed or underwhelmed than 2 weeks with a player. I think you got to watch him probably look at his baseball card, which has 6.5 years of, pretty good stuff. So I'm not worried about Devers is not the problem.
No,
Okay? Devers is going to be fine. He's going to hit in the middle of your lineup for a long time. You know, he's a terrific offensive player. You know, he is. I mean, it's, you know, we're talking about a guy who's one of the best offensive players in the league. He has not looked overwhelming in a Giants uniform, but it's only 2
Thank you very
weeks.
much. Thank you.
I'm not judging anybody on 2 weeks. This is a baseball season.
At least you said he's been underwhelming, which is what I've said.
His on base percentage is 100 points higher than Adames.
Yeah, which
Adames is the issue. I know what Marty's saying though. It's like, you know, you want fireworks, you know, right out of the chute, you know, like Kevin Mitchell 87 or something like that. But I mean, he was on base twice today. He scored one of the 2 runs that they scored. Yeah, I agree with Glenn. This is not the issue. And I'm not saying Marty thinks he's the issue, but I'm just saying Devers is going to get hot. And I think you're really going to love what you see. I think that was an unbelievably great trade. It really comes down to the fact that after the Giants' top 3 hitters in almost any lineup, and it could be, and it's different day to day, and Melvin's trying his best, but it's like they're like 3 deep in the lineup. So it's like and they'll try to put their guys somehow 1, 2, 3, 4, but then like the 5 through 9 in the Giants lineup. Is not getting much done. Adames is hitting 209, and Bailey's hitting 194, and Wisely's hitting 136. Now it's small sample, but they get 3 guys in your lineup under 209. So they just get anything under 220 is really hurting you, even in today's modern game where the averages are really down. And I know it's a lot about OPS and slugging and that kind of thing, but man, I mean, they got to get some more. Somehow they got to do something to jumpstart Jung-Hoo. I think he's the guy, because, come on, let's be honest. I mean, Jung-Hoo is probably a 285 hitter, and he's hitting 243. So I think if you could get him going, I think there's growth there. Obviously there's improvement from Adames that could be there. I think those are the 2 guys. The other guys, like Bailey, may not be much more than a 200 hitter, and Wisely and Koss, and these guys are kind of minor league fill-in guys. But Lee and Adames, if you can get those bats closer to 250, or in Lee's case, closer to 280, I think that's going to be where the improvement's going to come from.
Yeah, Larry could be a catalyst. Lee could be the catalyst.
He needs to be. He absolutely needs to be.
Marty, I want to run. I want to remember what we talked about this morning.
I got Dwayne's scorecards here.
I got one too. Good looking scorecard.
Come on, I got my scorecard, and I'm just telling you. Devers struck out 2 times on Saturday, and he struck out 3 times today. Adames struck out 2 times today. Adames struck out 2 times yesterday. Yeah. The issue. That's the deal. The big guys, Schmidt and Chapman, will be back, and that may make all the difference in the world. It very well may, and they can't get back soon enough for me.
Correct.
Larry and Eric, I want to run something by you guys that I talked about with Marty this morning, and it has to do with Jung-Hoo Lee. I mean, this slump is like,
this is good stuff.
I mean, listen to this. He's 2 for his last 32. He's 4 for his last 49, and he's 6 for his last 56. Okay, but here's what I talked with Marty about, and I want you guys to give me your thoughts on this. Let's think about what kind of hitter he is, right? He's got good plate discipline, right? He doesn't go out of the strike zone. Swings.
He doesn't get a lot of calls, by the way. The high strike in the at bat today really set him off, I thought.
Yeah.
So the ump was horrible today, by the way.
The ump that strike was way too high.
He was horrible. That guy was all over the place.
So he's a good disciplined hitter. He makes contact, and he's got pretty good speed. So you take those 3 things. The style of hitter he is, he doesn't strike out, right? He has 4 strikeouts in his 4 for 49 stretch. So my point is that I made to Marty this morning, if you're that type of hitter, you're going to get some ground balls that are going to go through the infield. you may beat out a couple infield hits because you got decent speed. None of that is happening. So for a guy with that style of hitting to go 6 for 56 and not even get a couple ground balls to the infield, that is almost impossible to do if you're that kind of hitter. That's the funk that this guy is in, right?
Well, look at his outs.
He's not striking out. He's not chasing out of the strike zone. He's putting the ball in play, and nothing is happening. And that's really hard. I don't know that I've ever seen that with the style of hitter that he is before, to be in that big of a slump where you're just not getting hits at all. Nothing's going through.
Is it because maybe he's not tattooing them? You know, it's more just soft contact to the second baseman.
No,
yeah,
he's not.
It's soft contact.
Yeah, it is soft contact. But my point is even that, you're going to get a ball to roll through once in a while. You're going to get off an infielder's glove, a chopper here. You beat it out over the, big bouncer over the middle. You're going to get some hits like that. He hasn't gotten anything like that. And it's the damnedest thing. And it's one of the worst funks I've seen, where a guy like him who puts the ball in play and has the ability to drive the ball a little bit. I mean, it's a major struggle, and it's tough to watch, but part of me feels bad for him because he's not out there waving at pitches out of the strike zone and flailing and looking terrible every at bat. That was hard to figure out for me.
Well, look, this is his first year really in the major leagues, and pitchers have sort of figured him out. He doesn't walk at all either. They're pitching to him and pitching him away, pitching him up in the strike zone, and or down, and he's on top of that ball. And as I said to you this morning, he plays pepper with the second baseman all the time, and then he's popping it up. So we have to keep that in mind. This is really his first year in the major leagues, and he comes from the Korean League, so they have figured out how to pitch to him, and now he's got to do it differently. Instead of getting under the ball and hitting those pop-ups, he's got to try to drive the ball through the infield or down the line or something like that. But yeah, it's amazing to me. He's the catalyst for me. In the early run of the season, when they were doing so well, this guy was huge. Every time he'd be getting on base. He could
a lot of doubles.
Well, he's still projected. I mean, if you look at his projections for the year, right? He's projected to wind up the year with 57 extra base hits. That's a lot.
Yeah,
that's a lot. I'll take 57 extra base hits. The downside is he's only on pace to walk 56 times for the full year, and so that's not good. But
the triples and doubles, he
doubles.
Was
he used to have. He was leading the league in the first month of the season with doubles. He made some contact. You got Claude Daddy he donated 5. Talking about your stat that you talked about, the one run losses there, Larry. Couple with the best bullpen and the best staff. If I'm not mistaken, I looked at it yesterday. The Giants are 3rd in the league in ERA, so they're getting it done. Guys, do the Giants? What's the priority for this trade deadline? We're talking about 4 weeks away. Is it the starting pitcher? Is it a bullpen, or is it a bat?
They better start.
Yeah, I think we're in that box now where we can start talking about that a little bit. And I think, to kind of piggyback on what Larry was talking about with Matos a little bit, I think if they wanted to bring Matos up, but my point with Larry was, I don't believe in just sticking him out there and sitting Lee down. But I think if you wanted to play him some in right, play him some in center, okay, maybe. But I do think they need another outfield bat.
Yeah,
I prefer a veteran right-handed hitting outfield bat. When I say veteran, because I think these young guys come up and it's hard for them to play half the time or every third day. It's very hard to do, and it's not always fair to them. And we've seen Matos kind of have to deal with that. And he has not been terribly successful at the big league level. I think he will be in the future. So my point is I'd almost rather see him get a veteran guy that maybe you don't have to give up a lot for, who could play any of the outfield positions, maybe a right-handed hitter. So when Yaz is in one of these funks, Yaz is 5 for his last 37. I just gave it the Jung-Hoo Lee numbers. So you got two guys that are really struggling. So now would be a time where you could play an outfielder in one of those two spots. So yeah, I would say a right-handed hitting veteran outfielder, and let's see what happens in the next couple of weeks with the rotation. If they need maybe a low end back end starter, a veteran guy, that may be something to think about too. Somebody mentioned I don't know who mentioned it, like a Kyle Hendricks kind of guy, that can give 5 innings,
For the Angels.
It's not going to cost you a lot. It's not going to cost you a big prospect. And you're just looking for a little reinforcement on the back end because you're not sure what you're going to get with Birdsong. And Roop's been really good, but Roop's going to, he's going to hit a wall here at some point in the next month and a half. So that would be my two things, Eric. I'd look for an outfielder, a veteran guy who knows how to play every third day, and that would improve your bench then the other 2 days, and maybe a fourth or fifth starter. So that's what I'm thinking right now.
I like Benintendi, who's now he's a left-handed hitter, but
One of your guys, Larry.
yeah, I've always liked Benintendi. Benny Biceps. I thought he looked pretty decent in this series, actually. But he's a left-handed hitter. He's more redundant parts. He's more of a replacement for Yaz than he would be in addition to Yaz.
Yaz defensively, I mean, really, the throws, he's throwing people out. He's throwing
he's terrific out there.
There's an old phrase, you got to go to the dance and dance with who brung you, that kind of thing. I think this is the team. They just got to play better. This is it. There's not a lot of room to do a lot of things for Melvin. Yeah, he can manipulate the bullpen a little bit, but it's still the best in baseball. They play all these tight games. Their defense is pretty good as well, so they're going to the dance with this is their partner. And yeah, maybe you could pick and choose things here and there, but I think these guys have to play better. They just have to play better.
They do.
You know what my hope is, guys, and see if you agree with me on this. My hope for this offense, and I think, I talked to Bob last week, and he kind of felt the same way, is you get Chapman back, okay? And that's important. He's one of your better players. You put him in the lineup, and then you put Casey Schmidt at second, and Schmidt's at bats, I think we all agree, look a lot better. Hits the ball hard. He's not going to keep hitting 400, but I think he has a chance to be a pretty good hitter. If you put him at second, now you have your guys. And I think Bob would like to get a little bit more of a set lineup when Chapman comes back. He likes Devers in the 2-hole. The Ramos in the leadoff spot. I think unless Jung-Hoo Lee gets real hot again, he may leave Ramos there. But I do think there's your chances to have for this offense to improve. Adames has always been a better second half player. We hope that happens. Chapman gets back. Now you have Devers, and Schmidt will be in the lineup at second base pretty much every day. Now, is that enough? We don't know, but I think that's the hope, is those 4 things: Devers, Chapman, Adames, a better second half player, and Schmidt in there swinging it much better. Now your lineup's a little bit deeper and hopefully a little bit more productive. Now, I hope that happens, but I think that's our best bet moving forward.
I do think that I do think they're going to look internally more for the pitching. Like I just like this kid Seymour. I mean, this kid looked fantastic today, and I know he's a power arm. He's got a 95-mile-an-hour 4-seamer. He showed a sinker. He's got 2 different sliders. He's got a cutter. I think he's going to be a guy. I think Wisenhunt could be not that far behind. I interviewed Carson Ragsdale in spring training. There's no question he's got a power arsenal. He's going to be up in the majors. So I kind of think that they're going to try to do the pitching thing internally. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll go from outside because you can always use a veteran bullpen arm. But I think the heavy lifting on the trades is done. I could see a bullpen arm, and I could see a veteran outfield bat like we've discussed, probably a right-handed hitter, somebody who's going well. who could, as Glenn said, could play every day if you needed it for a week, but also could sit for 3 or 4 days and then still come off the bench and be effective. Somebody like that. And that's probably going to be enough. I mean, I think there's good potential for the Giants. I like what I've seen on the mound, and I think it's real, and I think their vibe's good. I think Devers will get hot. Some of these second half hitters will heat up. I think they're gonna fight through and get that wild card spot. I really do believe that.
Well, they're going to have to score 4 runs a game. It's not a lot.
No,
They're not
it's
asking
not.
to score 8 runs a game because with this pitching, basically make it a 6-inning game. You know,
Mhm.
bunt early. Bunt early. If you got to play for a run, the Yankees did this in the 90s, Glenn. Remember with
Yeah.
Joe Torre? Joe Torre would sacrifice his family to score the first run of the game.
Yeah.
That's how important it was to the Yankees, and they won 5 straight World Series or pennants, whatever it was. But play for a run. It's
Yeah.
okay. With this pitching, you can win. Just give me 6 innings and give me a 3-2 lead or a 3-1 lead, and I'm taking it home. And I think so for the hitting, just hit better, hit smarter, hit better. Larry, what about Tommy Pham? Pittsburgh, right?
Pham.
He's got to be available. How about him?
He's always
He's-
available.
I know.
I mean,
Yeah,
there's a group of these guys.
Who was it? Lonnie Smith, remember every year, Don Baylor every year they would get traded.
But
I don't think
that's-
I don't think
that's
Lonnie's
the
going to be
kind of guy.
available.
That's the kind of guy, you know, and I'm going to start looking a little closer at some of the, you know, like Larry said, there's a list of those guys, but that's the kind of guy that I'm talking about. I don't know if Pham can play center field or not, but a veteran guy who doesn't mind coming off the bench, but as Larry said, could play for a week if he had to.
It's
I
like
think that would
Dominic
be a,
Smith.
I think that would be a huge help.
It's
I
like
do.
Dominic Smith a little bit, you know.
Yeah,
It's
maybe.
an outfielder.
Well, and whoever's going well. You know, I was watching you know, something popped up the other day, and it was the Cubs World Series year against the Tribe, and the Cubs got that line drive hitter. What the heck was his name? Who just Zobrist.
Oh, Ben Zobrist. Yeah.
I mean, just, you know, one year the Giants had Scudero. One year Cody Ross got hot. I mean, there are veterans out there that are, you know, their body's feeling right. They're in a career year. They're feeling good, and they just happen to be on a second division team. You know, pick that guy off, and I'm sure, you know, the Giants are smart enough. They know who those guys are. We could probably do a half-hour deep dive and find those guys on the stream if we wanted to. But you know what I'm saying? Somebody who's proven, somebody who's done it, somebody who's going to walk in and be able to accept any role. One more tough out for this lineup, and maybe one veteran reliever to give, you know, Melvin some choices. And then other than that, I think the rotation thing they're going to do within. I think they've made their big move with Devers. And I think if they can make a couple of moves on the margins, as we're kind of describing, and get a couple of guys like Lee and Adames going, and I don't, you know, those guys are in their prime and they're not hurt. So I don't think there's any real doubt that they could get going. I think that's going to be enough to get that wild card spot. And then once you're in, you know, I mean, you know, it's San Francisco, a smart catcher, a great environment, some terrific pitching. You know, anything can happen.
All right. Well, I think that's our hour. This is good. This is what we call real baseball talk for an hour.
And by the way, Marty, not to interrupt, but Claudetti Arcades, thanks to Claudetti because he's a big sponsor of the Krug Show. He's got brand new locations in Capitola Mall and Visalia Mall. He's a great follow on Instagram at Claw_Daddy_Arcades, and also thanks to Pig and a Pickle, the title sponsor of the Krug Show, for you know, being fantastic sponsor of our show. And check them out; they got great barbecue, Emeryville and Corte Madera.
Yeah. All right. Can I list my sponsors now? Do you have an hour? Yeah.
Yeah, seriously, you can run spots, Marty.
I'll say, well, it's okay. We'll do it next week. Original Joe's and Georgie Brothers, Rick Robin, people like that. And Glenn is working hard. His channel is going really well.
It's awesome.
And, yeah,
it's awesome.
It's good to see you because Larry is the trendsetter for this.
I know he is.
Harder than anybody, and
I know I'm like intimidated by, like, there's been times where I'm like, I got a question about YouTube. I should call Larry, but Larry's like Barry Bonds, to YouTubers.
Stop.
Like,
You know what? The answer I'm going to get.
Oh,
The answer I'm going to give you is, here's my son's phone number. Give him a call. But no, I've already heard people referencing the Gotham Club Friday night, Glenn holding court, and some of the good stuff you're doing there. I wouldn't mind seeing some of that on the YouTube. I don't know.
You know what? That's interesting, Larry, and we are going to start doing that. We have the audio, not video, but just the audio from all of our Gotham Club shows with our guests. We had the Fleming brothers on last home Friday, and it was great. So we tell stories, we laugh, we have a lot of fun. But I now have the audio file.
Nice.
And what we're going to do is hopefully this week, we're going to start putting those Gotham Club shows on my YouTube channel, audio only. So
or even just the highlight clips would be awesome. You know what I mean? Even if it was just like, hey,
get somebody in there to videotape it. Just
we don't, but the audio is there, and so we're gonna try to get one of our Gotham Club shows out on my YouTube channel this week. Of course, the show is called Friday Night Types, and it's Dwayne and I. And so hopefully we'll be able to do that. I think people will love it because it's just fun. We're having fun. We're talking baseball. We had Will Clark and Dennis Eckersley on one of our shows, and I mean, come on. We're talking about the '89 World Series. So
Glenn, NBC needs it. NBC needs it. If I gotta watch one more Bob Melvin eating with Laura Britt, I'm gonna puke. And last year it was Pavlovich and Kapler 2 years ago describing a hamburger as a 65, and I mean it makes me hearken for Love American Style, which was what used to be on during giant rain delays back on KTVU, if you remember.
Larry, the problem is NBC doesn't like me a lot right now, so that's a little
NBC. Come on, get over it. Glenn's one of the best in the biz.
Really, get Jeff Kuiper. Jeff Kuiper has nothing to do once the game ends. Get Jeff Kuiper, buy him a little video camera, and get him there to do this thing. He's a Kuiper brother. He's got to be working.
He's the smart one.
Yeah, he's got.
But you guys have been great, and I mean that all of you guys have been a big help. I've needed some help, and we're starting to roll a little bit. And
good,
Eric, you guys are great, and Krueger, you're the best. And Marty, you've been a good friend to me for a while now, and you've helped out a lot. I do appreciate you guys a lot.
Well, it's good. You deserve it. So good
100%.
things happen. We work hard. But this is good. Well, I'll be at Chase Field this week. I'll be up at
Let's go, Marty. Get us a W.
Boots on the ground. We're going boots on the ground.
Would you like me to mention to Devers that he's underwhelming?
Unbelievable. And out of shape. And you're going to tell him he's out of shape, too.
What are you going to tell him? Stop chewing?
What is
I don't think you should chew. Maybe it's the chaw.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think he's got the chaw.
He looks like Sparky Lyle out there.
He's going to have a big series. I'm saying it right now, Marty.
All right.
Devers is going to have a big series in Arizona.
They need it. They're the way we started will end it. This is a crossroads for them. Yeah. They have to really pick it up a little bit here. They got Arizona, then the Phillies and Dodgers, right? And
I'm gonna set the over under at 3.5 Devers bombs in the four gamer. 3.5. And I think he goes all fields. I think he hits one out to right, one to center, one to left. I think somebody's gonna interview him at the end of this series, and he's gonna say, "I love that yard. I love that yard."
All right. Are you putting up something from Pig in the Pickle for this, or are you just saying?
Yes, we will have lunch at Pig in a Pickle. I'll put that up there, Marty. Lunch on me at Pig in a Pickle. If Devers 3.5, and I'm going over 3.5.
All right, I'll put up a Georgie Brothers stressless chair. We all have them in our house. We all have them.
Is it kind of one of those? One of those?
Goes back and relax.
Okay.
And you'll put up the sauerkraut from Pig in a Pickle.
There you go.
I like it. All right, everybody, have a good week.
Thanks, guys.
We'll do this again. All right. Take care.
See ya.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you kindly. Enjoy the next week. We've got a whole bunch of baseball to speak on here at Marty and Friends.